I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, this is Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Well, I've had kind of a rough day myself, but I couldn't stay away. I'm a moth to a flame, guys. But I'm not alone. I got a guest on with me tonight. How you doing there, Justin?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you've shown up on Saturday Slowdown. I figured it would be fun to have you on one of my regular shows. There's been a lot going on in the world, hasn't there?
There has. It's been a busy last few days.
Although I swear I use that line, lot going on in this world, every night. But it's the truth. The world never stops. So we've the assassination of Kim Jong-nam. That was weird. I mean, it sounds like a plot out of one of your books, Justin. Half brother.
It's really a weird case.
A half brother poisoned allegedly by a female assassin in a foreign country. What about female assassins, Justin?
It was just, I believe there was actually 2 women, they believe, who did it. And female assassins are not particularly uncommon in a lot of these cases because they tend to go unnoticed.
Really? So are women viewed as less threatening?
In most cultures, they are. And it allows them to kind of get better access and get closer to people than most men would be able to.
Wow, that's interesting. That is very interesting. So, do you think, and this is strictly opinion, do you think Kim Jong-un took out his brother?
I think it's certainly a strong possibility. It's not uncommon for North Korea to use female assassins, and there was definitely a rivalry between all 3 of the brothers. So it's certainly a possibility.
Okay. And it's also not uncommon, as I was doing some of my show prep. Oh, yes, I've got my show prep. I just had to introduce my guest first, guys, and I got distracted. So, Russian FSB is known for it. Although they usually use polonium, which causes acute radiation sickness. So this guy was poisoned with something that acted much faster. Have you heard what kind of poison it was? Because I haven't, Justin.
I don't think so. I don't think they've announced it. But I believe that North Korean officials objected to any sort of autopsy being conducted. So it may have been delayed a little bit.
North Korea did object to the autopsy and wanted the body returned immediately.
I don't think that the Malaysian government followed through on that, but it probably delayed it a day or two. So we probably won't hear the results for a few days.
Right, and toxicology can take a while, can it?
It can. I mean, it depends how much of a priority they put on it. Here in the United States, it could take a month to get some of these expensive, complicated tests back. I'm not quite sure how long it would take Malaysia to do it. Right. Okay. So for those of you who live under a rock and don't know what we're talking about, it was a normal day at the Kuala Lumpur Airport Terminal 2. Everybody was checking in for flights, getting off flights, doing the usual airport stuff, coffee shop nearby, blah, blah, blah. When 2 women caught on security camera approached Kim Jong-nam and allegedly sprayed something in his face and put a cloth over his face. And the cloth was held over his face for approximately 10 seconds. In all the hubbub, would you believe, Justin, nobody noticed? Well, it's not that uncommon for the public to be oblivious to what's going on around them. True.
So, and that brought us to where we are today. I mean, Mossad has used poisoning, either attempted or successful. Russia has used it. Polonium and dioxin. I mean, so poisoning isn't all that uncommon of an assassination technique, is it?
No, it's not, because it's usually one that's not detected right away, or it's very quick and easy to administer. Of course, it's a lot easier to smuggle poison than it is to, say, smuggle a gun into places.
Well, that's true. I never thought about that aspect. And Malaysian government scientists were examining samples from the autopsy of the half-brother of Kim Jong-un after the 45-year-old was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur, and they are questioning 2 female suspects who were arrested carrying Vietnamese and Indonesian passports, and a Malaysian man, as they try and piece all this together. So, and of course Pyongyang hasn't made any comment, but its diplomats did object to the autopsy. I find it funny that all they want's the body back, and body back now.
I imagine they've probably finished their basic post-mortem examination already. They just probably haven't announced anything yet. It'll be interesting to hear what the results come back as.
It will be. And then we've got the Middle East. That place is just on fire, Justin. That place...
It is.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it really feels like it's falling apart in a lot of ways. There's fires popping up all over the place there.
Makes for a lot of news, though. All right, so I'm going to talk about our military for a minute, since I do cover military stuff. The Pentagon had said it wouldn't use depleted uranium rounds against Daesh, but it did. And depleted uranium rounds are controversial. It's a controversial type of armor-piercing ammunition that has been blamed for long-term health complications. And it turns out U.S. aircraft fired thousands of the depleted uranium rounds during 2 high-profile air raids in Syria in November 2015. So we are talking the Obama administration here, folks, not the Trump administration. And the bullet itself is called a PGU-14. It was first reported by a joint Air Wars Foreign Policy investigation. Approximately 5,265 rounds of the ammunition was fired from multiple A-10s in a ground attack on November 16, 2015. And November 22nd, in airstrikes in Syria's eastern desert that targeted Daesh's oil supply during Operation Tidal Wave. Okay. Depleted uranium rounds. Ouch. Do you know if they're like better or something, Justin? Do you know anything about depleted uranium rounds or no? Because I haven't done any research on them.
Not particularly. I know they are fairly common in military for military uses. I don't know the details of how all that works.
I don't either, but well, maybe we'll have to look into it. I can always see if we can get a scientist.
I do know I do know uranium or depleted uranium is what they call self-sharpening. So when it hits, say like a really hard target, it doesn't dull. It still stays sharp, and it is flammable too. I mean, depleted uranium is flammable, so maybe that's partly why they use it.
Probably has something to do with its armor-piercing capability. Then that makes sense. In other DoD news, putting a number of conventional U.S. military forces in Syria is one of the options being expected to be presented to President Trump later this month as part of the effort to accelerate the defeat of Daesh. Troops would be sent in to serve as quote-unquote enablers, force protection, and engineering advisors, similar to the way the U.S. has worked alongside the Iraqi security force in Iraq. It would likely be hundreds, according to anonymous officials. Gotta love those anonymous officials. Now, there are already conventional forces in Syria. What? You didn't know that? There are, I promise you. But it's only limited to a couple hundred, and they stay in the country for very short periods of time. So that's how come they were never counted in overall deployments. Okay, Justin, my next story, let me read it, and then I want you to comment on this one, because it's about the name, what's in the name. It's about, is it Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, or ISIL, or Daesh? So
Sure.
Let me go over this one, and for our listeners, now, for those of you regular listeners to the show, I call them Daesh. But then you've got ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and then you've got Daesh. Okay, Daesh? I know I use it, and I've explained it a little bit, but I think you've got a better explanation?
Sure, yeah. So Daesh, spelled D-A-E-S-H, is actually an acronym for the Islamic State of Iraq and Al-Sham, but in Arabic. And so you get this acronym. It essentially means the same thing, but it's almost a pejorative term that the ISIS or Daesh that doesn't like, because of the way it gets conjugated sometimes in Arabic. You can, depending on how you conjugate it, it can mean anything from to trample down and to crush, or even it could mean a bigot. And so this group doesn't like that term being used, even though it's the acronym for their official Arabic name.
Well, I think that sounds like that acronym pretty accurately describes them there, Justin. To crush.
It does.
They can run in there and crush people all the time. So, as far as I'm concerned, the shoe fits. They get to wear it. I'll keep calling them Daesh. I knew they didn't like it, but I never knew why.
They've actually threatened to cut the tongue out of anybody who publicly uses that acronym instead of referring to the group by its entire name. So they really don't like people using it.
Well, guess what? I have a feeling they're not going to track me down, darling. I am on the other side of the ocean. I have a feeling they ain't coming looking for me. So, there's been okay, now we just talked about Iraq and Syria and Mosul. I've got a couple of audio clips for those of you who didn't catch them all yesterday about some of the stuff going on in Mosul. These are audio clips from the latest Operation Inherent Resolve briefing.
The people are extraordinarily resilient, and they're grasping the opportunity to bring some normality back to their lives in East Mosul. Markets and schools are reopening. Bustle and life is returning to the streets. And even the simple pleasure of a game of football without ISIS's rule-making and oversight is being enjoyed.
So, that actually sounds pretty promising, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I'd like to think that those people are finally getting out from under the stiff thumb. And it looks like the UN is going to be doing a little bit of helping out. So let me play a little clip on that.
The government of Iraq, working with the United Nations and others, has started vital stabilisation efforts to reignite the city's essential services: water, electricity, sanitation, refuse and health infrastructure.
Now that's cool. And by the way, for those of you who didn't know who that was a general from the British military, one of our coalition partners fighting Daesh. And that brings me to the next story. Go RAF. Yes. A flight of RAF Typhoons obliterated Daesh headquarters, building it in the jihadis' last remaining stronghold of Mosul. The attack jets dropped a pair of smart bombs on one of the buildings, which is believed to be in the northwest corner of Mosul, the RAF released combat footage showing the weapon strike, which can be found on various UK websites. Defense Secretary Sir Michael Fallon praised the mission, claiming the coalition was about to deal a decisive blow against the terrorist organization. And I gotta see if I can pull up an old audio clip on this one, Justin, but this battle for Mosul has been going on forever, hasn't it? Or am I missing something?
It's been going on for a while. They've really been trying to push ISIS Daesh out. Sounds like they finally succeeded getting them all the way out.
Well, I'd like to see so. I'd like to see them get them completely out. I am looking for an audio clip here. It wasn't one I was planning on playing, that's why I didn't have it queued up. There it is. And this was from a previous briefing, and I love to hear this one.
The enemy is completely surrounded in West Mosul, and those who do not surrender to the Iraqi security forces will be killed there.
And that was, I believe, Colonel Dolan, but don't quote me. But that was another clip, and I love to hear that one because I'm sorry, I don't think Daesh is going to be able to worm their way out of this one, do you?
The noose is certainly tightening around them. It's obviously in a difficult part of the world to fight, but they certainly seem to be losing ground on almost all fronts.
And Daesh closes down all of its Sharia courts in West Mosul. That's not like them. They like to be able to sentence people to death.
Well, they've been losing fighters too, not only by ones that have been killed, but fighters that have started to abandon them as well.
Oh yeah, we've heard that a few times on this show. In fact, I think I've got a clip on that. Let's see what I got here.
Moving to Iraq, the Iraqi security forces continue to prepare for the liberation of West Mosul. The 16th Iraqi Army Division, supported by police and thousands of tribal forces, have moved into the east side of the city to provide security to the population and prevent the enemy from re-infiltrating or using sleeper cells.
No, it must have been the clip on Al Bob, which we've played enough of those clips, but yeah, they are running away, they are hiding, they are trying to save themselves.
They are, and we've actually caught several of them trying to flee in women's clothing, trying to sneak out of the city when all the women and children were evacuated a while back.
Okay, why? All right, maybe you can explain this. The women's clothing over in the Middle East, it's called what's it called? The name of it again?
Well, there's a lot of different kinds. You're talking the hijab?
That's just the head covering. No, the full body one.
That is, you mean the abaya?
I thought there was a burqa.
A burqa? Yeah, that's as well. Yeah.
And that covers the woman from head to toe, doesn't it?
I believe that yes, the burqa does. I mean, there's several different variations depending on which country you're in and which region, but yes.
No thanks, folks. Your host never wants to wear one. All right, Justin, I know we're just coming up on the bottom of the hour, but you want to give out your social media contact now, and so we can, I think we're going to take that commercial break maybe a minute or so early.
Sure. So you can find me on social media. I have a Twitter account. It's JustinR_Kinney. And you can reach me there. And I also have a Facebook page for my book, my authoring. That's J. Robert Kinney. And you can find me on Facebook as well.
And what's the title of that book?
The book's called Precipice. It's like a small town murder mystery.
Oh, awesome. Sounds like a fun read. All right. On that untie my tongue tonight, folks. On that note, folks, we are going to pay them bills, and I will see you on the other side.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna.
these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
For hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Justin, we've covered a lot of regions of the world, haven't we?
We have.
Oh, this I know you're used to Saturday Slowdown, where we kind of slow down and take a look at one topic for the whole show. Now you see why I had to kind of start that show, because I don't have time to explain a whole lot on this one, do I?
No, jump around quite a bit.
And speaking of jumping around, we are going back to Russia. Secretary of Defense Mattis said Thursday that Russia will need to prove itself before the United States and other members of NATO are willing to let their armed forces collaborate, potentially complicating efforts by Trump to fight Daesh. And yes, I will continue using the acronym Daesh. Justin, do you really think they're going to try and come after me?
That's probably pretty unlikely. I think they have bigger issues on their plate right now.
Yeah, like all those bombs falling on their heads?
They've got their hands full.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to even make their radar. Well, speaking of Russia, Daesh, and the whole Middle East, All right. You know about the conflict in Mosul. Well, there's also one going on where in the... Justin, what's the Daesh's self-proclaimed capital?
Raqqa.
You
mean Raqqa? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Turkey's defense minister said on Thursday that the U.S. administration has a more flexible approach to Syria and is not insisting on Kurdish YPG militia being involved in the operation to drive Daesh from Raqqa. So it seems the previous administration was insisting on it, because the Turks and the Kurds are not friends, are they?
No, they're not at all. They've been fighting on and off for decades, at least.
Exactly, because the Kurds always seem to get the short end of the stick, Justin.
They do. They've been kind of left out. I think they're the largest people group in the world to not have their own state.
Yeah, and that just isn't very fair. So the Trump administration has yet to decide whether they're going to arm the YPG over Turkish objections. The U.S. says weapons provided to the Syrian Defense Force are so far limited to its Arab elements. And Turkey is evidently working on the U.S. withdrawal of the YPG from Manbij by the time al-Bab operations are completed. Okay, Manbij. We've talked about Manbij a couple times. It was supposed to be was that Tabik or Manbij? It was supposed to be the second coming.
Oh, that's the Beak.
Okay.
That was what they named their magazine after for a while.
What was is it? Do you recall a big deal about Manbij other than it's Manbij and it seems to make the news every other day?
I don't know anything specific about Manbij, like I said, other than it seems to pop up a fair amount recently in the news.
Okay, so I'm confusing my Middle Eastern cities, folks. That's not news. And, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu was in town, and Hezbollah has not been minding its manners, have they? But Justin, does Hezbollah ever mind its manners?
It's pretty rare. They don't like to mind their manners too much.
No, and do you know what country funds Hezbollah?
Well, Iran funds a fair amount of it.
Bingo! Ding, ding, ding! We have a winner, folks. Yeah, no, Iran. I gotta love how these dots connect together, Justin. You have Iran, who funds Hezbollah, and then we're gonna start actually over in Syria, because that's how I usually start my Middle East scorecard here, Justin. We've got Syria, which is Bashar al-Assad, who is being propped up by Russia, and who's friends with Russia? Iran. And, of course, Russia and Turkey are not real much on the ends right now, especially after the assassination of their ambassador on live Turkish television, and the shooting down of a commercial aircraft. But then the U.S. and Russia and the U.S., I swear, Justin, I think we're headed for another Cold War. So we're not getting along real well with Putin right now, and then we're using Turkish bases to bomb Daesh, and Bashar al-Assad seems to say the biggest terrorists in his countries are the people that want to overthrow him, never mind Daesh. That about sum it up?
Yeah, I think it does.
And then, of course, you've got the North Koreans and Iran, because they're trading partners and have been swapping missile technology for years.
They have. They've been allies for a long time.
And it kind of makes sense for the two most hated or isolated states, or the two of the worst world actors on the stage to team up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Alright, we were talking about the Kim Jong-nam poisoning before, and I know this isn't sorry to slow down, but okay, you mentioned the female assassin, and that caught my attention. You were saying that female assassins are actually more common than we think?
They're more common than we think. I wouldn't say they're more common than male assassins, but they do pop up a fair amount because women tend to be seen as more unassuming, particularly in certain cultures.
Well, over in the Middle East, you're lucky if the woman's viewed any higher than the potted plant.
It's true, although we have now seen suicide bombers dressing like women to get closer to their targets.
Right.
Is, essentially using the same tactic as using a female suicide bomber.
Okay. Well, I'd have to say that Hezbollah and Iran aren't the only people acting up. Russia has the spy ship Viktor Lenov was off the U.S. coast. And at first it was hanging out off New Groton, Connecticut. Hey, Justin, do you know what's up in New Groton, Connecticut?
I don't. What's in New Groton?
A sub-base. A United States Navy submarine base. So it was 30 miles south, New London, Connecticut, sorry. And it was 30 miles south of the submarine base up in New London. And most recently, the ship has positioned itself east of Long Island, about 30 miles. Oh joy. It's been running up and down the seaboard, and who knows what it's been up to. Now, of course, the government doesn't want you to freak out over it, so they've been trying to keep it quiet and not make it top headlines. And Trump has said that he's instructed Secretary of State Rex Tillerson to try and start a dialogue with Putin to see if we can simmer things down. And we don't know where it's headed. It's probably going to go by Kings Bay, Georgia. Now, do you know what might be in Kings Bay? Hint, it's a lot like Connecticut.
Probably another base.
Another submarine base. Bingo, you catch on. Now, the Lenov is not the only Russian-sized spy ship to visit the East Coast. It is one of 4 Russian spy ships they have, and one of 3 to actually visit the East Coast of the United States. So, folks, while this does not mean we are on great terms with Russia, it is no reason to freak out, run, hide, or not go to the grocery store today. Sound about right, Justin?
That's about right. And of course, these ships aren't entering U.S. waters at all either. They're still technically in international waters.
Because the international waters are how many miles?
12 nautical miles. Well, a state owns about 12 nautical miles, which is 13 point something actual miles from its shoreline.
So 30 miles, they are well outside of our territorial waters, folks. So the Russians are not invading. They're just trying to figure out what we're doing. And, of course, Putin wants more communication between Russia and U.S. intelligence. I'd have to say fat chance bozo. Alright, I don't normally do U.S. politics here, but, okay, they had something to do with documents escaping the DNC. Whether it was a phishing scandal or a hacking, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of that, but they had something to do with it, and now they want us to say, hey guys, Russia's picking up the phone going, hey U.S., will you share intelligence data with us? Justin, what would your reaction be?
I think there's a very unlikely chance of that happening.
I'd be like, hey Russia, long walk, there's a short plank. Bye. I'm sorry, I don't want to share our intelligence services to share intelligence with the FSB. I'm sorry, the FSB is no better than the KGB. It's just got a new acronym, folks. And they both end in B, so you can remember that you don't want to be on the receiving end of any of their information. So, and then, have you heard about the chaos in Paris? There have been some clashes and violence going on over there. Have you heard about any of that?
A little bit, yeah. They've had some riots, some buildings set on fire, some policemen attacked.
That is exactly what's going on. New clashes have broken out between police and protesters in a Paris suburb after the alleged rape of a young black man by police sparked a week of violence, and I think many people here in this country can equate with that. Ferguson. Protesters, mostly young people.
We've certainly seen the same thing here.
Exactly. We've been through it. So I feel for the people in... I'm not even going to try and say it, but I feel for the people in that Paris suburb because this country knows what it's like to go through all this. So, protesters are mostly young, throwing stones and iron bars near the main shopping mall, and police use tear gas to disperse the crowd. Protesters are calling for justice after a 22-year-old man claimed he was sodomized with a police baton when he was arrested on February 2nd. I'm not even going to try the French names. I don't speak enough French to play that game, folks, and I don't want to murder it. I murder enough of the Middle Eastern names, Justin. Let's not start murdering French names. I just feel less guilty. Well, it's the truth. So, did you know that in recent times, and this happened right around the start of the new year, there was a new #1 best-selling book in Germany you never would have expected?
No, I didn't see that.
Mine is an annotated version of Mein Kampf.
Oh.
And it was selling like crazy. Well, see, what the two academics had done is they'd gone through the version and annotated and made comments and notes and debunked a lot of it. And
interesting.
They turned it into a 2-volume set, and so far as I've heard, it is only available in German. But if it ever becomes translated in English, I want it.
That'll be very interesting. Well, I know in Germany, too, Mein Kampf was banned for a long period of time, and it was only just recently that they said that you could sell it again.
Right. And that's probably part of what prompted these two to release this book. I mean, it's been flying off the shelves. It had like over 850,000 copies sold in the first month.
Wow, 850,000.
Or 85,000 or whatever it was. It was a huge number, and it was in like no time. Booksellers couldn't keep it on the shelves at all. So, I think the politics in this country is kind of gone. You got extreme left, extreme right, and the rest of us going, will you two stop it? That about sum it up?
I think that's probably a fair assessment.
All right, well, evidently we're not the only country that's got extreme left and extreme right going on. Germany's far right now flirts with Hitler. That's a powder keg waiting to happen. The right-wing populist alternative for the Deutschland Party may be slipping in the polls. Excuse me, Mr. Frog. But that sure doesn't help keep them out of the headlines. They have put up something saying missing since 1945. Hitler, where are you? Germany needs you. And that is scary. I can't, I'm sitting here going, okay, missing since 1945, Adolf, please get in touch, Germany needs you.
That sounds pretty bad.
And we thought politics was crazy in this country. I'm sorry?
Getting pretty crazy everywhere, I think.
Justin, I know it's a little much to actually ask for world peace, but could we get a worldwide dose of common sense? It seems to have gone the way of the dodo bird.
I wish we could.
I'd settle for, can somebody develop a vaccine that brings back common sense? Please? I mean, we've eradicated polio. Can we revive common sense? Because this is...
I certainly hope so.
I mean, common sense is getting less and less and less common, and everybody seems to be able to go... Nobody seems to be able to take a middle ground these days. Everybody's going, you're either in or out. You can't have a different opinion than me. And folks, that is getting old. That is getting very old. Alright, just got a couple more stories to cover because believe it or not, Justin, we got less than 10 minutes.
Coming up fast.
Time flies when you're talking for an hour, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, have you heard any interesting terrorist or Middle East or chaos stories?
I mean, we've probably covered most of the big ones. I know that we were talking about Mosul earlier. I know that they've started sending a lot of people back into Mosul, who had fled. There's now 40,000 or more who are returning home, despite some of the fighting still continuing in that town.
Yeah, it's great to see people being able to come home and get back to some semblance of life, even if it's not as nice as it once was. Because Mosul used to be a really awesome, really thriving Middle Eastern city, until our friends Daesh showed up and trashed the place. Talk about declining property values, folks. Alright, so...
They've brought chaos pretty much everywhere they go.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in the neighborhood where they can't show up. I'm sorry. South Korea's politics aren't doing much better than Germany's or the United States because their president has been impeached, but unlike our president, that doesn't mean she steps down. They got to wait for a court ruling. But one of her friends, Samsung Chief Lee, was arrested as South Korean corruption probe deepens. 40-year-old Lee, scion of the country's richest family, was taken into custody at the Seoul Detention Center after waiting there overnight for the decision. So Lee is a suspect in an influence peddling scandal that led to the parliamentary to impeach Park Geun-hye in December. A decision that, if upheld by the Constitutional Court, will make the country's first democratically elected leader to be forced from office. Now, I found this fascinating. Do you know who several people in South Korea are pressuring to take over the presidency?
No, who?
Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the UN.
That's very interesting. I know he's often seen as a big hero in South Korea because of his role in the UN.
Yep, and now they're saying, why don't you become our leader? You led the world? How hard can a country be? So, and of course, the lunatics in the north are at it again. Although, that's my nickname for North Korea. Come on, they're always spreading some kind of propaganda, are they not?
Doesn't usually stop with them.
No, and the scary thing is, Justin, I can predict who's going to say what in a press conference the minute I hear that a missile was launched. And several people are comparing that assassination of Kim Jong-nam to the mob. It does seem kind of mafia style. Now, there's some people that think Kim Jong-un is losing grip on power.
Yeah, that's been a rumor that's floated around for a while now.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think part of me says I want him to lose power, and part of me says, what point is there? China will put in a puppet, but the puppet might behave better. So, one of the new interesting little things, North Korea is sending its national team to the 2017 Winter Games in Sapporo, Japan, where Pyongyang's athletes can engage in friendly competition with teams from rivals South Korea and Japan. Now, Japan has prohibited North Korean passport holders from entering the country, but they are making an exception for the Asian Games. So I'm glad to see that people aren't letting sports get in the way of democracy. And it seems Japan is not the only country not letting sports get in the way of being, let politics get in the way of sports competition. Because remember how, I'm sure you heard this on the news, Justin. Iran said, we won't let the American wrestling team compete. We won't let them in the country. When President Trump signed that executive order.
Right.
Right. Well, the Americans were greeted in Iran with red roses, smiling fans, and a barrage of selfies. No diplomatic crisis here. But 2 weeks ago, it didn't look like the wrestlers were going to get to go. So it is definitely a triumph of sports over politics.
Sports has often been kind of a great unifier of politics. Even here in this country, conservatives and liberals get together to cheer on their various sports teams.
Yeah, but I hate to say it, sometimes even the NFL is getting political. So,
yeah.
Justin, I'm out of stories. You got anything?
Well, we've got kind of a little fun story.
I love good news stories.
There was a news story I came across out of Idaho just today, where a pet squirrel actually helped prevent a burglary attempt by attacking and scratching up the suspect when he tried to break into a safe in a person's home.
Oh my gosh, way to go, squirrel. I never thought of keeping a pet squirrel. All right. What were we going to say, Justin?
I would say apparently the squirrel was, adopted as a baby when he was abandoned and kind of raised in the home, and apparently has become very loyal.
Sounds like he's definitely the loyal, defensive, protective type. Way to go, squirrel. Never heard about a squirrel becoming a watchdog, guard dog before, but it sounds like this one's well qualified and earned his stripes. So, Justin,
they apparently captured the guy who tried to do it, and his arms were all scratched up, and he said the squirrel wouldn't leave him alone and just kept attacking until he left.
Oh, that story sounds hilarious. That would make a funny kids book.
It would.
The squirrel saves the day. Super squirrel. All right, Justin. We are about out of time because I got to make way for the Jen and Rick show. So I've got 3 things to do before you give out your social media. Everybody out there, you still got time to get on over to KLRNRadio.com and enter to win Station Manager Ann's own coffee mug. Well, you're not going to take the one she drinks out of. Trust me, folks, no one can get a hold of that one. But she's willing to have an identical one sent to you. If you want a picture of it, head on over to KLRNRadio.com and hit the What's New tab. And Jen and Rick will be hot on my heels, followed by America Off the Rails. And for you night owls, we got the Rhino Report at midnight Eastern Time. So, Justin, how about you do that social media contact information one more time?
Sure. So I have two basic ways you can reach me. I'm on Twitter, Justin R_Kinney, and you can reach me there. I also have an author account on Facebook. That's J. Robert Kinney, and you can reach me there. Any questions or anything about my book or anything political related as well.
All right, folks, and as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. You can shoot me an email at the station at jessiespov@klrnradio.com. And on that note, folks, I'm out of here!